To school community. This is Tanya Kitlowski. I am live today with our fourth update regarding our financial forecast as well as our current financial kind of status. And I'm here to share our last session regarding where we're at and things that I would hope that our taxpayers know in terms of our financial situation. So yesterday we concluded with sharing I'm going to just flip the slide here. We shared our mill rate history and kind of where we're at today. But the thing I wanted to transition to today is as our mill rate lowers, that doesn't mean our tax levy, doesn't go up. And so our tax levy is the total amount of authorization that we're able to levy through local taxes. And that is the particular part on your bill that says K-12 education. You're supporting the Necedah Public School District. If you live in other school districts, you would be supporting their school district. But wherever your home resides is the school district that your personal taxes are supporting. And so one of the things I want to share with you today is kind of understanding the total impact, because mill rate is something we look at very closely in our community. But today I want to talk a little bit about that levy too, so people understand that your taxes can go up even though your rate goes down. So as you can see with this history, the tax rate, the mill rate, has gone down. Now this is an average mill rate for our entire school district. All we can do is average it out because we can't drill down to the individual taxpayer. That is a personal property assessment, which I'll explain in just a minute. But basically speaking, what I'm talking about is our levy has gone up this year because through the biennium budget, which is something that we don't control, but the biennium budget has given an increase to the lowest revenue districts in the state, which Necedah is one of that group of lowest revenue districts, receiving $10,000 per student. We now have $11,000 per student, so that means there is an increase in funding to our school as well as all of the others that are at that $10,000 rate. And if you remember, 2 sessions ago, I talked about kind of the differences that school districts get. It's based on their spending in 1992-93, and wherever districts were spending at that time, they have been frozen regarding that rate of spending, and that is what's determined in the calculation with how much revenue that district is getting proportionately, depending on any increases the state gives. But that particular calculation has not changed since 1993. And so this particular rate, $6.22, it's the lowest in our 8 school district conference. So we're very proud of that for our local taxpayers. We do whatever we can to try to stabilize that a little bit, so our taxpayers don't experience, wide fluctuations from year to year. That's important to us. But as you can see, in general, it's basically gone down. So the piece I wanted to share here is with that decrease, how that's actually considered is that once we decide the total levy that the district can generate, which we're at about, I'm just approximating, we're at about $6 million that our local taxpayers generate for us through property taxes. Then we decide, well, where is the wealth of property within the school district? And so each municipality, such as Clearfield, Germantown, Village of Necedah, Town of Necedah, Findlay, Armenia, etc., we decide what proportion of that total value in our school district those municipalities have, and we break up that $6 million, and each municipality gets their portion based on their portion of property value. Once that gets disseminated to our municipalities, the municipalities then share it to local taxpayers based on their personal assessment values. So if your assessment value is what portion in that community, you're going to get that portion of that tax. And so that helps you understand a little bit how that is funneled through the system all the way from the total amount, then it goes to municipalities, and then it goes to individual homeowners. So the one thing to note is that the levy has gone up for our school district, but the mill rate itself has actually gone down. That formula that I've referred to in each session that I provided an update on, that was the one that was put into place in 93, 94. And basically, since that time, our school levies have only rose less than 2% in 13 years and less than 5% in 22 of 29 years. Yet inflation has skyrocketed. So if you look at how much the revenue increases are in schools minus referendum, if you look at that compared to inflation, we are lagging by billions of dollars, over $3 billion we're lagging just in our state. And so that helps give perspective with the financial issue that public schools have been in for years now, decades, because we haven't been able to keep up with inflation. And so that is an issue, not just Necedah, but different school districts around the state, and why we have so many school districts that are having no choice than to ask their local taxpayers to pass an operational referendum. And we have been in that place as well, which I've shared in one of our previous sessions too. So I wanted to just share that the property valuation of our school district, it's always announced about on October 1st. We actually increased by almost 24% in our district, and so which is a pretty significant increase. Different municipalities have held a little bit of that growth in terms of equalized growth, property value growth. So like, for example, Armenia went up by 26%, Clearfield by over 26%, almost 27%, Cutler almost 14%, Findlay almost 14%, Germantown over 25%, Town of Necedah over 25%, and the Village was our lowest, which was a 5.7 or almost 6%. And so that gives you a little idea about those percentage in terms of how all of that contributed to that total growth that we had in our district of almost 34%. As compared to the state average, I believe it was about 14%, so that shares a little bit of perspective of that significant growth that we had. Again, generally speaking, as property wealth, property values in our school district go up, that mill rate will go down, and you can see that through this history that mill rate has dropped. The other thing I just wanted to mention, and I mentioned this at the very beginning in session 1 regarding one of the things that we've done to really make sure that we don't have any unfunded liabilities, and that is to change our post-retirement plan for our certified staff. And so that redesign has really moved our old system into a new system, how we're doing a pay-as-you-go model now. And we have saved our district $900,000 by making that shift. So that is something that anybody can review if you're interested in that. It is a public document. So we're happy about that shift, and we worked with teachers very hard to put a good plan into place. This particular slide, I just wanted to also mention one of the ways that we can try to save, if you will, are some of the places of which we've actually saved money within departments. One of the places we can put that money safely to pay for maintenance, deferred maintenance projects, is in our Fund 46. The state requires us to have it a capital improvement project, and we submit things that we want to work on to use for this capital savings. We are at a point now that we can actually take out of that fund when something comes up. A hot water heater goes down. We have another issue, excuse me, another issue with something that broke down. We have this fund to be able to offset that particular cost that we wouldn't have predicted. So our board is taking good responsibility to make sure that we do have some funds in that particular area. So as we look at balancing the budget, we do forecast projections. As we look down the road, we balance this year's budget. Next year, we're looking at a deficit of about $150,000. And so we will balance that budget. We'll make reductions in areas and make sure that we're balancing that budget. The following year in 25-26, we're looking at closer to $300,000, and that is the year that our $950,000 operational referendum ends, and that's why it jumps to over $1 million in that year 26-27. So depending on what the state budget does, because of course in between there is another biennium budget, we will have to consider whether or not we need to talk to our taxpayers to allow them to decide the quality of education they would like for our children. So that is kind of the next steps when we think about referendum and where our budget's heading. So we had this year, as I've mentioned before in another slide as well, we've had an increase of $1,000 per pupil, and our special education reimbursement has increased. We will see what that is. We don't know for sure right now because it's yet to be determined, but we're hoping to be at 30%. And then just a reminder, one of the other pieces that we have shared in another session was just that how we used our majority of our ESSER funds, and that was to purchase rooftop units and to avoid asking our taxpayers to fund that. So these are some ways that we advocate or some things that we advocate for at the state level. Per pupil increases through that revenue limit formula is important to us. And then we know with our percentage of special education needs that we need a higher percentage than 30% paid of our aidable costs. And then lastly, we continue to see an increasing amount of emotional needs of children, and how we fund for that is going to be very critical in order to meet those individual needs, especially in a community that has very few resources for our families besides the school. So that is the last part I wanted to share today and our last session. So as you get your tax bill, if you want to talk through any of that, I am happy to talk to you. We can pull it up and look at it, and I can share with you different aspects that would have impacted you specifically. We can look at our total evaluation for the district, what your particular municipality got for their percentage of that levy. We can look at your individual assessment value and look at kind of how that all played out. I'm happy to talk through that with you. I do that with people, so it's not uncommon. And so if you'd like to get a hold of me and just talk through it, you just give me a call. We'll pull up your tax bill and take a look at it. Everybody's is available out there, so we'll look at it and go through it step by step. That's all I have for today. I thank you all for joining me for our last session of our financial forecast. I will be downloading each of these videos and posting them on our website, so you have access to them as you would like them, or you can play back and watch again. That's all I have for today. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time back here on Facebook Live. Have a good day, everybody.